can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's your boy Ernie the Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we are going to be talking about Absolute Superman #2. And this one, whereas the previous issue, we were being introduced to Kal-El of this universe, as well as the new circumstances that he has now found himself in, and which, by the way, if this happens to, for whatever reason, be your first ever video watching of anything Absolute Superman related, I will say there is a little video you can watch up here that will get you all up to speed on that. So to get into it, this is Superman in a unique situation. We have already seen that Superman already in this universe has some upgrades, to be sure, but some new weaknesses that just he's not going to be able to contend with right away. First and foremost among them is that now, because his body isn't necessarily capable of absorbing this energy, since he has to artificially do this, he's basically a cell phone, he has to be charged on the regular. What happens when Superman operates at night? Superman is incredibly less powerful. Now, to be fair, at night, he seems to at least be still resistant to the weapons that the Peacemakers are using against him. The Lazarus Corps is, basically throwing at him, but at the same time, he's nowhere near as effective as he would be in broad daylight, and especially charged up. So at night, he's a little bit weaker. So that's a new rub. The other thing that is different here is, of course, his suit. And we've learned that while under normal circumstances, Superman and his suit, they're usually just, originally they were his baby clothes from when he crash landed on Earth, but this is a very different Kal-El. Here, this is basically the dust left over from his home world, and at least in terms of his cape. But also with his suit itself, it's a piece of technology developed from Kryptonian sunstone, something that actually gets brought up at both the beginning in what is kind of a little hint and a tease when we see the mention of sunstone mining, but at the end we see that's actually what this suit is. It's a prototype and something that was only created for him. So it's fairly safe to say it's a one of a kind. It was technically intended to be used by all people on Krypton to escape its ultimate destruction, but something tells me they didn't get to that, especially considering how the status quo of Krypton is talked about in this issue. That's actually kind of one of the overarching themes, something that I feel to both sides of the story, both the Kryptonian side and the Earth side. And it's largely AI bad. Now, I'm gonna go and say right now, I personally have no real beef with actual artificial intelligence. I respect my robot overlords. However, I will say the area where I think people, and this is actually something that the person who's gonna be editing this video, he and I actually talked about off to the side not too terribly long ago, Robo, and we usually have our conversations on the Nerds of Culture with live streams every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. So I'll go ahead and say right now, I don't have any beef with artificial intelligence on any major level, except for a very specific kind. And I think it's the kind everyone thinks about: generative AI. It's basically AI that quotey fingers make something from nothing. And that nothing is actually other people's creativity. That is the type of artificial intelligence I have a problem with. That said, this comic it's taking a shot at really all AI. It's like a blanket shot at AI, which I understand to a lesser extent, because it's basically Kryptonians. They don't allow even so much as the children of Krypton to write papers for school without using AI. There's a point where Kal-El writes a paper. He does it himself. He doesn't use the artificial intelligence of Krypton in order to do it, even though he is specifically told that that's what he is supposed to do. That is the norm. He does not do it, and he gets in trouble for it. He is told that his parents are going to have to be talked to about this. And then we later see at a point after Superman has had his interactions with Lois Lane in this issue, things that I think, once again, the meet cute here is actually pretty cool. We actually get to see more of it, because previous issue, when they do meet for the first time, that's the end of the issue pretty much. But before I get into the AI stuff regarding Lois Lane, the thing that I found interesting here is that Superman in this universe, it seems like he doesn't have any romantic feelings for Lois Lane, at least not yet. Lois doesn't seem to have any for him either at first, but you can tell, like, after they have their interaction, when she actually sees Kal-El in action, how he's not a threat to society, that he actually helps people, and also witnessing him not only not really, I mean, he does fight back against her, but he goes out of his way to say he doesn't want her to be hurt or harmed in any way. And later on, seeing how he quite literally risk his own life to save people who he's never met before. Like, Lois sees that and recognizes that maybe this guy is a genuine article. Maybe he is not some destructor of worlds that I think the Lazarus Corps initially sought him out to be. And also taking it a step further, that, you kind of can see the wheels turning in Lois's, head and in her eyes, that you can tell she has a bit of admiration for him, though. She recognizes that this is a Kal-El who, in a lot of respects, is very similar to the Kal-El of the Earth Prime universe. He's earnest to a fault. He is always looking out for other people. He always wears a smile on his face to brighten people's day, to show them that they have hope to look forward to, and that he can also be a commanding force. And all of that all at once, and all of that incredibly sincere. But the difference here between Earth Prime, Superman, and this Absolute Universe Superman is that this is a Superman who has lost everything. Despite the fact that he is a symbol of hope for others, he's not an official one. Like, he's not quite there yet. And not only that, he is lost himself. He is a person who is trying to put on the brave face for other people, but not able to put it on for himself. Not only that, we also can't forget about the fact that, once again, this suit that he wears, it doesn't make him Superman in this universe, but it definitely helps him more than a super suit has ever helped Superman before in the past, at least not one he wears normally. The cape being made out of the dust particles of Krypton, the suit being forged from sunstone, and is basically a almost techno-organic type of material that works almost like a symbiote suit, or I would even say more specifically, almost like the nanotech era of Iron Man, like Extremis, like actual, I'm not talking about MCU Extremis, meaning like actual Extremis. That's basically what it reminds me of. But yeah, the suit is great, and Superman uses it to great effect in this issue. But to get back to the Lois Lane of it all, once Lois has her interaction with Superman and she's going back to Lazarus Corp to try and set the record straight, give her report on everything, the thing we notice is that there's a parallel between Kryptonian society and the society of Earth. It seems like artificial intelligence and algorithms are the king on Earth just as much as they probably were on Krypton. Whereas Kal-El, as a child, was chastised for not using artificial intelligence to write his report. Turns out that when Lois gives her report, she's not typing anything. She's dictating her report to what is effectively Brainiac. We talked about in the previous issue that Brainiac seems to be in control of Lazarus Corp. Well, turns out he is, but maybe not in a way that everyone realizes, at least in terms of the people who work there. You see, I say that because everyone, at least as far as human people who work at Lazarus Corp, seem to only think of Brainiac as some kind of an algorithm. Like, he's a system. He's not a person or any kind of a living or sentient entity. That said, we know that he is. We've seen him, but it seems like he's ruling in secret, like he's manipulating Lazarus Corp from behind the scenes. It's not something that he's actively running. Now, what the true identity of Brainiac is here in this, is he some alternate, like, absolute universe version of Lex Luthor who happens to be Brainiac? Or is this a Brainiac who traveled from Krypton and then found its way to Earth? I mean, honestly, it could be a little bit of both. It could be a Brainiac that is merged with Lex Luthor, for Christ's sakes. I mean, we've seen crazier things out of Lex Luthor over in the Earth Prime continuity. Hell, Apex Lex, it was a Lex Luthor who was merged with Martian Manhunter cells. I mean, it was insane. It was crazy. That said, Lois, she's trying to tell this artificial intelligence, just a simple algorithm, what she saw. And Brainiac is manipulating every single thing she says. When she says that he could be a force for good, it recites what she says is that a force for evil, that this is something dangerous. When she says that this guy could potentially be an ally, Brainiac reads that as, no, this guy's a potential threat. Every positive thing that Lois is saying about Superman to the Brainiac, quotey fingers algorithm, Brainiac is twisting to tell his own narrative because he recognizes Superman as dangerous. And probably because he knows exactly what Superman is, because he's also, just like in Earth Prime, probably very likely from Krypton. I think that it's interesting, how they're doing this. Jason is basically taking this narrative and kind of wrapping around a story of, idealism, and also a stance basically about artificial intelligence and also about workers' rights and how the people in power put their foot down on the little guy. And that's everything this is supposed to represent, to the point that once Lois realizes Brainiac is not taking her report the way that it should, she decides to write it herself and then realizes for the first time that, oh, this feels right. Because she's digging into those Earth Prime roots of journalism. Even though technically she's not writing for a paper, she's writing a military after action report. But still, the more Absolute Universe kind of jumps to changes, it still has that level of familiarity that makes it feel right at home. And I like that. I actually dig that. What is next for Superman? I mean, I think we're definitely going to see a lot more of Superman and Lois Lane. Lois trying to tell the truth about Superman to Lazarus Corps, no differently than what she did in the past in regards to working at the Daily Planet. But I also think that we're going to see something in terms of a Superman who is just recognizing more and more that the world is an evil place, Earth is an evil place, and that just as messed up as Krypton was, Earth might actually be, I won't necessarily say worse, but about as bad. I don't know how much stock to put in, what kind of Superman Kal-El will ultimately become in the midst of all this, but I definitely think that, as far as witnessing what happens at the end of this issue with the Peacemakers taking out their frustrations by going after the people, going after the normies, the normal, regular humans that are under the jackboot of Lazarus Corps, I think Superman's going to have a lot to say about that. What he's going to do about it, if he does anything about it, is another story altogether. But at the end, there's definitely a scene where it seems like the Peacemakers are about to commit a egregious act of police brutality and potentially murder. Whether or not that is the case is up to Superman by this point, but considering that it seems like towards the end of the issue he is either walking away or towards a problem, it's difficult to say, but I'm pretty sure he is walking towards the problem in this particular regard. He'll probably get there in time, because Superman always does, but I wonder, because of the type of universe this is, what if this is one of those worlds where Superman doesn't always get there on time? That would make this a much darker tale, considering what kind of universe this is supposed to be.